Welcome back to another exciting episode of Iron Rage, the show where we rage and let go of all our pent-up aggressions and anger and emotional stress, and we release it on you guys because you love it. I'm Dave Palumbo, your host, and I'm joined as always by John Romano, and today's topic is sensationalism versus radical honesty. Which is better? There's a huge ongoing debate all over the internet, social media, YouTube, between Rich Piana and Bostin Loyd. Rich Piana, I would say is the poster boy for sensationalism. I mean, that's where he makes his money. That's Mr. 5%, Mr. Bigger Than Life. And then you have Bostin Loyd, on the other hand, who's Mr. Radical Honesty. He tells it like it is. He always tells the truth. He's so truthful to his own fault sometimes. And the question remains, John, is it better to be sensationalistic, or is it better to be radically honest, even if that honesty might be reckless in the sense that you're giving out crazy information to people that you're doing?
It cuts both ways. I mean, you could look at Piana as entertainment, but and at the same time, you could look at Bostin Loyd as entertaining also. Unfortunately, or actually I should say for better or worse, they both create their own camps, and you have the contingent that hates Piana and sticks up for Loyd, and vice versa. And you got to wonder, it begs to ask the question you just asked, which is better? So what I think is you got to be really careful with how you temper or how you release this information, and temper it with the fact that, we've finally cruised through the era of high scrutiny. I really don't believe there's a tremendous amount of, attention by the DEA and the feds on steroids right now. And I think it would just behoove us all to try to go as low key as humanly possible and try to keep, the eyes off us. But when you have guys like these two, I think they both exemplify what no one should be doing in this sport because of the attention it draws. Not only with, kids saying, oh, I want to be like them, and I want to jack myself up like Piana, or I want to jab 5 cc's into my pecs like Bostin Loyd. But, at the same time, you don't want, a football coach to see this and go, oh, no, we got to pull a Don Hooten now and get Congress involved, and then everybody suffers. So
like the old Meyer Lansky, who never got arrested, the mafia, boss, so to speak, who never gets arrested, versus, John Gotti, who was all over the news and basically flaunting himself all over there, and the feds went after him because of that. I guess you could say it's similar to that. I think, though, with the age of YouTube and social media, people want to get noticed, John, and they'll do anything to get noticed. Rich Piana might be one of the most successful businessmen in the bodybuilding industry who doesn't even compete, because he created a brand, the 5% brand, whatever you want to call it, the subpopulation of people that are special or different than everyone, and people flock to that. They flock to it like he was like one of these cult leaders. And you see them at the booth at all the shows. They can't get enough of Rich Piana. And Rich Piana is putting on a show. And you and I know this, and he knows this. A lot of what he said is sensationalistic because he is expected to say sensationalistic stuff. He does, controversial videos. I've even, responded to some of his controversial videos. And I know he's putting on a show. He knows he's putting on a show, and it's all, I like it. I think it's entertaining, and I get why people, are attracted to him. But then you got the other camp of people like Bostin Loyd who are angry at Rich. They actually say, you're doing a disservice to our industry. You're full of crap, and I'm here to tell the truth of what's going on. And so they're not compatible. They're angry and fighting with each other and saying terrible things. And then, of course, Rich has to respond because Bostin Loyd is calling him, Mr. Collagen and all kinds of, horrible things. So then Rich comes out and basically says, you're a loser, Bostin Loyd. You're a terrible bodybuilder. And so now it's become this ugly battle between the two. I still am trying to, I think both people are both, potentially compatible people. They're pretty much agenda is the same thing, even though they're coming at it from different angles. I think our industry can handle both of them. I think it's good to have two diametric opposites in one sense. The question, however, remains, is it dangerous? not to the feds. I'm talking about to kids watching these videos, or even just regular bodybuilders watching these videos.
Yes, I mean, some things are better left unsaid, and I think but look, both of them are not good bodybuilders. Let's put that out there. You're not going to see any of them winning the Olympia. So, what are they actually trying to do? In lieu of, bodybuilding talent, they're resorting to outrageousness. They're both outrageous in their own right. Bostin Loyd with, the truth, and Piana with, the imagery. But sensationalistic or over the top extreme, either way, I think you got to be careful here, because you don't want to send the wrong message, and you don't want to attract unwanted attention to what we finally feel like we've had a bit of a respite with, the people looking over our shoulder. I mean, once Balco died down, and once, all that Don Hooten crap went away, and it's been, 15 years since then. Now, I mean, look, I get people sending me pictures of their gear. Every week I get at least 2 or 3 emails with pictures of gear in it. People asking me, is this stuff any good? Have you ever heard of this? I have not seen the same label 2 times, in like 3 years. It's just, there's so many underground labs working now. There's so many bodybuilders now, kind of pursuing bodybuilding at their own pace, free of the scrutiny that you get in like a Scandinavian country. And it's a pretty freewheeling society right now as far as bodybuilding goes. The last thing we need is, a football team, going out and, doing the Bostin Loyd thing and then getting themselves all fucked up, So, and I use Bostin Loyd and Piana interchangeably. They're both, while one may be the truth and the other would be sensational, it's a gray area, Dave, because bottom line is the downside of it is going to be equally as deleterious to our industry and to us as bodybuilders. It doesn't make any difference.
Interestingly, I got an email, just to back up a little bit. You had mentioned the Scandinavian countries. We were talking about that the other day, about how they're they're bodybuilding profiling people, pulling them out of gyms and drug testing them. It's not the Scandinavian countries. I was basically set straight by one of our listeners. It's just Sweden. Just Sweden. Norway, Denmark, they don't give a crap about bodybuilding. You can use steroids all you want. It's Sweden that's doing this. So I wanted to just keep that focus on Sweden. Sweden is the only country doing this at this point. But getting back to what you were saying, isn't or can't Bostin Loyd and Rich Piana be almost compared to the WWE in wrestling? Because let's face it, we know that these wrestlers don't hit each other with chairs and cut each other with blades and hit each other with baseball bats in the head. We know that it's an act. And yet we watch it because it's entertaining. And that doesn't mean that some cuckoo bird doesn't go hit his brother with a baseball bat thinking it's funny because he watched it. But most people know that it's for entertainment purposes only. Do you think that the people who watch the Piana stuff and the Bostin Loyd stuff see it that way? Or do they actually say, hey, these guys really know the secrets. I'm going to do what they're doing? That's a loaded question, Dave. And again, it's a gray area, because here's what you don't want. Look at it this way. One of the greatest spectacles of all time, in my opinion, was Jimmy Pilecki benching 1,000 pounds. Okay, so imagine if we had the social media today, back then when he did that. He would be blowing Bostin Loyd and Piana together out of the water. Okay, because he exemplified something radical and outrageous that virtually anybody could aspire to achieve. Either one of them, Piana or Loyd, what they're promoting is something that could be looked at by some people as potentially dangerous and have a bad effect, especially when kids are involved, teenagers are involved. So I don't think it's healthy for some people to look at Piana and go, oh man, I want to load up my arms and my shoulders with oil, or by the same token look at Bostin Loyd and say, yeah, I'm going to geese 5 cc's into my pec today. I think either one of them, while maybe entertaining to some of us because we know what we're talking about, I think to
in the vein of the WWE, I think it's a sensational piece of our story that does not need to be, bastardized into entertainment. I think that
Bostin Loyd with a needle sticking out of his chest is probably not a good message to send to the kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think, why can't he bench 500 with a reverse grip instead if he's geezing all that oil in there? So, I mean, do something like Barbarian-ish. Don't do something, that's going to drag some kid down a rat hole. And then we got a fucking disaster we got to deal with. Then we got, angry parents, testifying in front of Congress, and we have eyeballs on us again. And then we go right back down the tubes to where we were in in the mid 90s, early 2000s. It makes no sense. I think there's plenty to do in this sport to exemplify the extreme and the outrageous without freaking walking around with a needle sticking out of your chest.
Let me ask you this question, John, because, if you had both of these guys standing before you right now, okay, what could you possibly tell them? These guys are making a lot of money on YouTube. Rich is selling 1 million products. Boston's got a website full of products. Who do you think will, the old story, you go watch a movie and you know that the main character that you're enjoying the ride with is going down somehow. Something terrible is going to happen to him because that's just what happens in these movies. Who's going down first? Who's going to will Bostin Loyd or Rich Piana have a problem first, in your estimation, given the information and the stuff that they're disseminating on this on YouTube channel?
I want to first preface this by stating that I like both of the guys. I have nothing against either one of them, and I respect the the audience that they've both attracted. I think it's tremendous that guys who are weren't able to make it as competitive bodybuilders were able to find a cottage industry around it that made them a lot of money and made them successful. I think kudos to them. I believe that that's something worthy of praise. However, having said that, look, the guy is on YouTube loading up a syringe with an illicit product and he's sticking it in his freaking pec or wherever else. Who would he go down first? It all comes down to what is going to create an investigation, what is going to raise the eyebrows of the DEA or whatever branch of the cops want to take this on, and they usually only do it if there's a parent group complaining, because honestly, steroids are not very high up on the list now when you got freaking terrorists driving trucks through crowds of people. Right. Okay, so it's a matter of supply and demand. If there's no demand for this kind of investigation, they're not going to do it, or they're going to do very little of it. So I think these guys while they've been successful and they've drawn their audience, and that's a great thing, I think the promoting, and look, I'm guilty of it too. I'm the first guy that ever stuck a needle in himself on national TV. So I understand the allure of the outrageous and the extreme, believe me. But I think it's dangling bait in front of something that could be potentially deleterious to our entire way of life as bodybuilders.
Now you're absolutely right, but I'm going to say one thing. We live in a society of reality TV. That's what people want. They don't even want to go on, they're not even watching cable anymore because they know that those Kardashian shows are scripted. They go to YouTube because it's the most raw reality TV you can watch. People are on there and they're just look, we're doing it right now. We're revealing our life. We're here, I'm sitting in my house, I'm in my office, you're in your office in your house, and we're just talking. I mean, in the middle of the day to people, and they just love that, But the bottom line is that someone's going to give it to the audience. Why can't Bostin Loyd and Rich Piana do it? And is there a way to do it responsibly, or is it given the nature of what they're talking about, it's just inherent that this is going to happen?
Yes, because of the nature of what they're doing, it's inherent that it's going to happen. Now, let me play devil's advocate. What happens if, some guy decides, I want to blow my arms up like Piana and starts jacking freaking peanut oil in there or whatever? I mean, in Latin American countries, you've seen these guys that they any oil that they can get their hands on, they stick in there. It's come from an oil change from Grease Monkey. They don't give a shit. As long as it's oil. So, you know, the, and look, you can get the guy was on TV, had a massive infection. His actually skin was, bulging, and pus was coming out, right? Spontaneously. You get some kid in an affluent community who, has got rich parents with a voice in the PTA, and the father's on the board of directors of some giant company and has political pull in his little town of, bumfucked Iowa. And this kid gets a massive compartmental infection, requires, an emergency room visit to drain his tricep. They got to take some of the muscle out. He's deformed for life. What do you think's going to happen? They're going to send Piana a freaking Christmas gift? We're going to get a knock on the door, And
John, let's assume you're right. Is there anything that can be done against these guys? They're going to say, look, we're just doing this for entertainment purposes. This is not real. We're not injecting real steroids. We're not, we're giving away information, but we're not medical professionals. We do this with disclaimers. This is for entertainment purposes only.
Except that Piana's what, 260? It's not a reality to say that we're not doing anything that has.
But like you said earlier, when we were debating with Chris Aceto, the proof is you got to prove it though. You can't just say it. You got to prove that these people are doing something wrong.
Yes, you got to prove it, and then you got to prove intent.
Right.
Did Bostin Loyd intend to cause harm to somebody?
Only to himself. Only to himself.
But now let's look at it the other way. Let's say Bostin Loyd, injects something bad, and he's got a staph infection. He doesn't pay attention. He ends up in intensive care and he dies.
Right.
Because you can die from staph.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So completely logical and a plausible scenario to happen. Imagine what's going to happen now to the online in our communities if one of these guys croaks. What do you think the backlash is going to be? It's going to be mass hysteria. And the only downside is that the guy's not alive to cash in on it anymore. But it would be a circus. Then we would have all kinds of, negative attention cast our way. And for what? Isn't there anything else that can be, drawn to the extreme? I used the Pelleccia example, before. Is there nothing left to do that can, entice the appetite for extremeness now, other than, start making these wacky cocktails of juice and locatable oil and, injecting yourself on TV? Is that it? That's the extent of what we can do?
Well, my conclusion for this episode of Iron Rage is that sensationalism and radical honesty certainly have a place in the entertainment annals of bodybuilding lore. And if you go online and you like to watch your YouTube videos and you enjoy the Rich Piana videos and you enjoy the Bostin Loyd, diatribes that he goes on, knock yourself out. Watch the stuff, enjoy it, but take it for what it's worth, tongue in cheek. Don't take it seriously. Don't go home and follow these protocols that these guys are doing, because these are not protocols that people are doing on a regular basis. This is not reality. This is sensationalism. This is entertainment only. And I think that's where people go wrong. Because I have people contacting me saying, what do you think about this thing that Bostin Loyd said I do? What do you think about this thing Rich said? Take it for what it is. It's entertainment. Okay? If you want to learn real science, you take courses like My Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru, or you go buy Bill Llewellyn's book on anabolics. You do research, you learn the science, you learn the right way to do things. Because after all, your body is something that you're going to have to live with the rest of your life. And if you want it to last you a long time, you got to be smart about what you do. Don't be a dummy. Don't stick your head in the sand. And don't buy into all the Kool-Aid that's being dished out to you. If you do, you could wind up as a statistic. And that's the last thing that John and I want to see. So hopefully you guys can make your own decisions based on these arguments that we gave today. Whether you're a Rich Piana fan or a Bostin Loyd fan, or you don't give a crap about either one of them, they have the right to entertain you, and hopefully you're entertained, and hopefully you're entertained by our programming. And if you are, make sure you subscribe below. I'm Dave Palumbo with John Romano for another episode of Iron Rage.